The first thing on our agenda is public comments. And we have one person, Mr. James Garrett, has signed up to speak. Mr. Garrett.
That one. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, commissioners and guests or staff. There's a couple of things I want to talk about. As you know, I've been involved as a volunteer to be an officer of elections for several years now. Over the years, I've seen several administrators of elections come and go, and our current one. But one of the things that I want to compliment you on is, from my perspective, as someone who comes in on Sundays to pick up supplies and then comes back on Tuesdays and returns them, is how efficient I see things getting. We used to have a bunch of people out there behind the building, you know, and prisoners and things unloading, and it always seems like it just took forever. But I've noticed in the last several years, you've gotten very efficient with that, and I want to compliment you greatly on that. Thank you very much. As a citizen, I interact with the Election Commission quite often because I get people asking me questions, and I want you to know I just came from Sumner County and their election commission. I was picking up some information there, but it took me 3 days to get that information from Sumner County. Davidson County is a totally different picture. And from a citizen's point of view, it's a good picture because I call you up, I get an answer, or I don't get an answer, but I generally get a call back fairly promptly. The staff for me, has been very efficient, very good. They get me the answers that I'm looking for, and then I can pass them back to the people who ask me those questions efficiently. So I think we're blessed here in Davidson County. I really do. So I want to compliment you and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. I just want to echo as well. I think we got one of the best staffs in the state that get the work done, and they work a lot of hours, and we really are super proud of those individuals. Thank you. Do we have anyone else that may have missed? Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes from September the 3rd's meeting. I'll give the commissioners a chance to take a look at that.
Motion to approve.
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
All right, we have a motion. We have a motion to approve the minutes for September the 3rd and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Ayes have it. Approval for the minutes from the November 5th meeting.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the minutes for November the 5th, and we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Ayes have it. The next thing on the agenda is the announced results of the mandatory audit and certify the November 5th election, 2024 state and federal general election, Belle Meade, Forest Hill, Goodlettsville, and municipal elections.
Mr. Chairman, included in your packet is the report that we will be providing to the state. In your packet is your copy. I've got the official copy here that I'll ask each of you to sign. It details out all of the scanners that you randomly chose on the 5th. We had the audit then on the 14th. Mr. Burns was there observing and helping us perform that audit, and the information as far as the results of that audit are presented in that packet of information. Any questions, concerns?
I would like to say that I thought the elections went super great. I never saw any issues that, as through my observation, has any other commissioners had any issues or concerns?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any concerns. I'm like you, went to a number of the polls and things be going well. The workers were complimentary of the support they were being given by staff, and so it just seemed to work well. And I echo the earlier comments relative to the professionalism of our staff.
Thank you, Commissioner. I do know that, and I want to ask this, was the turnout lower or was it in comparison to 20 of the last presidential election?
Commissioner Starling, the turnout was a little bit lower than what we experienced in 2020.
I got you. Okay. Mr. Chairman, do we need a motion for this? I'm sorry, Commissioner, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I think this, I don't know that you need a motion to approve this. You would just be signing this, and when you certify the whole election, you're doing it in total. Just like we're getting ready next to discuss the provisional ballots, what we saw, that's the way that I would approach it.
Okay. So will we have a report from staff, or how will this work?
Well, to look at the provisionals, included in your packet is a summary. I would, and the detail, the colored detail of each individual transaction, and then there's a summary of all of those transactions, just to make it a little bit easier to consume, that we can discuss. I think probably the biggest thing to point out there, that's no surprise to anyone, that our biggest rejected reason was the individuals were just not registered. Now, they will be registered for the next election we have, but they were not registered for the November 5th election. Included in this list are our typical issues that we have with provisionals. We did break it down at a little higher level of detail this time. So things like the ballot was missing. That means in the provisional ballot, there was no ballot. We had the envelope, but no ballot. So it makes it impossible for us to actually count at that point in time. We do have something that's a little high from what we've typically seen, would be the number of felons that turned out to vote. That could be because of some news reports right before the election that may have given these individuals the idea that they would have their ballot counted.
I see.
No photo ID. The numbers fairly representative of what we typically see, maybe a little bit more, but because of, we were up close to 300,000 people, not a significant number there. Any questions on the provisionals? Let me just say, we had a very short window to take care of 3,800 provisionals. This was a Herculean task by Elizabeth and her staff, and we actually had everyone in the office working on these just to try to get them done timely.
I have just a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
When talking about the ones that were accepted, the provisional ballots, that's where people would have voted on paper on a provisional as opposed to voting on the machines. What does agency registrar mean?
So the agency registrar are where we did not have the individual registered, but they tried to register with one of the passive agencies, either safety, human services, Veterans Affairs, mental health, from the state. If we can't find them, we then turn over all of those names to the state. They have the agencies go back and see if that individual made an attempt to register, and they let us know.
Okay, great. And then the other question I had was poll worker error. It looks like that was about 12% of the ones that ultimately were permitted to vote. Did we have any idea what the poll worker error, was that a training issue? Was it we're seeing it at one particular precinct, or?
We haven't had an opportunity to go back and look specifically, what caused it, but typically it's the person should not have voted a provisional ballot. They were, for some reason, the worker could not find them, yet we found them pretty easily. So that's the typical reason. And it's just, you're seeing more because of the total number of provisionals that we have.
Okay, thank you.
One other question. The people with the non-citizens, do they get a provisional ballot?
Yes. So kind of our approach, because we don't know where these people are in the overall scheme of things as far as being registered, if you present at a polling place, we will let you vote a provisional ballot, and we will take the time then to research after the fact to determine whether or not you're an eligible voter or not. And these individuals were not.
Wow, okay, that's interesting. Thank you. Yes, sir.
If I could, let me follow up on that. So I think it's good we call it like this, but I guess my question is, I could see how you could track down and figure out that they're not registered, but how are we able to go further deeper and find out that they are not a citizen, unless they said that?
So we would have on our records, so if they're not registered for election day,
Sure.
they don't show up on the poll book.
Yeah, oh yeah, sure.
And if they're not registered because they're not a citizen, they don't show up on the poll book.
But how do you know that? How do you know why they're not registered?
Well, if a couple of different reasons. The state could have provided a report to us that said this person has reported to us that they're not a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
We would then send the individual a letter, give them 30 days to send us back information showing that they have become a citizen, they marked it by error, all of those kind of things. So there's an opportunity for them to correct that at some point in time. Just like we have lots of people that they try to register, they don't give us their social security number. They don't sign the registration, don't give us their birth date. They go into a category of incomplete.
Yeah.
You can, on election day, come back in, you'll vote a provisional ballot, we get everything, you get to register, even though you missed the registration date because you have that incomplete registration. So there's a lot of pieces, parts that we have to check to make sure that everyone that we're allowing to vote and we're counting their vote is eligible to vote.
Okay. Thanks.
So anyone basically, on a lot of situations, regardless of if they don't have the photo ID or whatever the case may be, can ask for a provisional ballot and vote.
Correct. Let me give you an example. The 47 individuals that it says never registered, provided address outside of Davidson County, we had people show up that don't live here from different states. We let them do a provisional ballot, but they put their home address on there and it was Illinois or Florida or wherever. So you can vote a provisional ballot. I guess it makes you feel good, but it won't count.
So a provisional ballot is
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
So provisional ballot essentially is like a fail-safe, right? We can't find you, we're not sure. They're not voting at that time. They're just saying, I'm not really sure. There seems to be some static. It's not showing up in like the easy way. So I'm going to fill this out just in case. And if I'm eligible and it counts, then it's a vote. But otherwise, it's just a nothing.
Correct. That's exactly it. It's a fail-safe. A lot of people come in, I think I'm registered, but, whatever. We'll vote a provisional then. We can double check after the fact to see if you really tried to register.
I see. Any more questions from any of the commissioners? Next on the agenda is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. So, Mr. Roberts, if you could go back for the slow learners. So we don't have, by certifying the election and certifying this audit is done by virtue of signing this document here in a little bit, as opposed to a motion. Have we not done motions in the past for?
We will do a motion to certify the election.
Okay.
You're just not going to do a motion to
Okay, no, I get
look
that.
at the audit
Yeah, no,
results.
okay, I got that. All right, thanks.
I'll make a motion to certify the November 5th election.
We have a motion and a second to certify the November 5th election. Results, I'm sorry. Result. Okay, the
Results,
results, I'm sorry.
I'll state it again.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good. I make a motion to certify the November 5th election results as reported to us by our staff.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to certify the results of the November 5th election. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I'm working accident chairman today, so I am so sorry about that. Next on the agenda, we have an AOE's report.
Mr. Chairman, probably the biggest piece of information I can pass along to you as a commission is to, I know you've heard from Mr. Garrett and some individuals, but the election that we just had in Davidson County would have been impossible without the work, hard work, long hours of the staff, some of them sitting back here, some still back at the office because we've got probably 10,000 voter registration cards that we have to file. They have to be alphabetized, all those kind of things. So work goes on even though the election's over. And I just want to express my gratitude to all the staff that made it happen.
It's the smoothest election I've ever seen us run. I mean, so far as like a presidential, like it was absolutely the most efficient, the smoothest, the least number of problems, the least number of issues. It was literally the best presidential election from a process and staff and efficiency standpoint that I have ever been a part of. So big kudos.
And you know, I like to say that the staff, you know, they really care, and it's not just a job. It's something that they are really proud to do, and that's shown in a lot of different ways, and when we discuss, and even when we're talking to the commissioners, and I asked a lot of questions, and some things I should know and I don't always know, but they have always kind enough to go over it and how it works and the way it should be. And that kindness also shows into the voting population. You know, when we visit the precincts, people don't have a lot of complaint. They may have a complaint because the line may be long, but you know, I'm don't want to say I'm real glad to see long lines, but I'm glad to see people participating. And they participate because they know that the Davidson County Election Commission and its staff and its leadership care about what goes on out there. And I think that reflects on a lot of ways. I would say Davidson County is the flagship of all commissions. I'm sure somebody would disagree with me that in other counties, but I have seen firsthand, I've been on the election commission probably longer than anybody on here. And Commissioner Hertzfeld said this has been the smoothest, and it has. Normally, presidential elections, there are some issues or some glitches, but wasn't any. And, you know, everybody that wanted to vote got to vote, whether it got to count or provisional or it went directly the way it should go. So nobody has a complaint that I don't know of. And I just want to congratulate staff and leadership of Davidson County Election Commission.
Mr. Chairman, that's all my report today. I think we're looking forward to a little time off to focus on, circling the wagons a little bit and seeing how we can make some improvements for the next election. I know the staff probably don't want to hear me say that, but, we'll be looking.
Question, just being that guy, is there anything that we need to start working on while we're ahead of the game? I know we don't really have a major election for a minute, but while the iron's still kind of, while we still have those things on our minds, anything we need to start thinking about preparing or ordering just because we can before it gets here?
I think a couple of the things that we've already had some discussion on is the number of provisionals themselves. Can we, right now, every voter signs a document when they do a provisional that they understand why they're doing a provisional. It may make sense that instead of saving that to the end of the process, maybe we put that on the front of the process. So for the people that chose to vote at the wrong precinct, if they knew before they did all the paperwork that it wasn't going to count, maybe they would go to the other location or decide they want to do something different. Because we had a pretty good number of those. Wrong precinct, 421. That's then a lot of effort on the part of our staff to have to go through that to make sure that there was no other glitch with that individual. So there's plenty of things that we will be meeting on over the next couple of months to try to see, can we fine tune what we've done to make it any smoother?
So these individuals, they went to the wrong precinct, they got redirected, right?
They chose not to be redirected.
Okay.
They chose to vote at the wrong precinct. And they sign a statement that says, I voted at the wrong precinct and I know it won't count.
Wow, okay. That's a little different. As we go on, I'm sorry, any other questions from commissioners?
I'm good.
Okay. The next thing on our agenda, for those in the audience there, we have to review cards by state law. We will go in that process and then we will reconvene after we get through counting these cards, reviewing the cards. Commissioners, are we completed?
He's signing the rest of the documents, but if he wants to put it back on the record, I think we're pretty safe. Hold on, and then, oh, okay, he still needs to do this, so.
Okay. No. Okay. We're back in session now after reviewing the cards. I want to follow the agenda, but before I move to the last two agenda items, I just want to, and I may have missed this, but I want to thank our workers in the precincts. I don't know if I mentioned that or not, but, you know, and all our workers, none of this stuff would get done without the volunteers that go out to the precincts, that open them up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, stay to 7. I just want to publicly thank those and the officers that are in charge. Mr. Garrett is here today, and he's one of our workers, and he's been doing it for quite a while. And I just want to thank those workers that do that. Next on our agenda is scheduled for the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, since you completed the cards for this meeting, I don't think we need to have another meeting until 2025. So maybe we set it at the call of the chair.
Okay, we will set the next meeting for the call of the chair, hopefully in 2026. 2025, I'm sorry. The next item on the agenda is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Oh, he beat me to it. I was giving the dramatic pause, but
All in favor?
no.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We adjourn.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.